So today's topic is short project number 2, observation, and it will be the student presentations. And as you know, I've started the recording, so the last time we missed a couple students, so I apologize for that, but I made sure that we started that. And we're going to start from the bottom of the list, and the idea is a 2-minute presentation about what you observed. Of course, you can share the screen if there's some visuals. And the important thing that I'm looking for is, based on that unusual observation, to have some implications or potential for innovation or some new idea. Throughout your career, starting in, kindergarten even, you were giving presentations about things that you might have observed. That is not the purpose of this exercise, because you've done that since you were, young children. This is to go to the next level. And this is what distinguishes innovators, from, um, non-innovators. And also what's interesting is those childhood sort of observations. As a child, everything was new, every observation was fresh. And so actually it was easier as a child to do an assignment like this. Right now, as adults, we go through the world and we just take it for granted. And to kind of revert back to that childhood view. But the difference now from the childhood view is now you want to bring all your experience and try to come up with new ideas based on an observation, as opposed to just looking at the world with wonder and amazement, which is very important, as Einstein said. But now to approach it from an adult level and to bring it to innovation to change the world. Now, those are very big and ambitious goals, of course, but we start that, every little step. And if you look at all the innovators throughout history and all the companies, they do small innovations continuously. Linus Pauling, a very famous American chemist who got the 2 Nobel Prizes, one in chemistry and one in Nobel Prize for Peace, was said to have generated in a day dozens of ideas, and some of them were not that good. Some of them were, obviously very good ideas. So constantly having that sense of wonder and then going to the next step and trying to see what are the implications of that observation are the purpose of today's presentation. So in other words, if you just present what you saw, I mean, that's important because we want to be observant. Uh, it won't be as good as if you really kind of make some connection, for example, with another idea or create a new idea. The other thing that I want to test for today, if you will, or I'll evaluate, is your presentation style, etc. So making sure we do it very quickly, very efficiently, and very effectively within the 2 minutes, I think is a very important practical skill that you can practice here. Now, why is that important in practical skill? You've heard of the phrase elevator pitch. You bump into Bill Gates in the elevator. He has an extra $1 billion in his pocket for a startup idea, and you have to tell him in 30 seconds, what is your idea, and get him very engaged in that. So we call that the elevator pitch, a term that many of you are probably familiar with, of course. So this is another practice for that on a practical level. Try to convince us, myself and the class, that your observation is really interesting and that there's some really cool implication of that observation. Before we start, any questions? Okay. Let's start with Zhang Yuning. Yuning Zhang. Zhang Yuning.
Yes, I'm here.
Great. I will start the timer.
Okay. So,
I
hey
don't see
guys.
the camera. There we go.
Okay. Hey guys. So, the interesting fact or things I found around me is about the arch bridge and its designing principle. Actually, the principle for me may sound familiar and for everybody because it's related with eggshell. The principle you use is when you hold an egg in your hand, if you squeeze it hard, you will find that you can break it. Well, actually, most of us know that, but we never thought deeply about it. For example, can you relate this with Sydney Opera House or Archbridge? So actually, when its spherical body receive a concentrate force from the outside, it distribute the force so that the body is only subjected to the force without being pulled at the same time. And the vacuum environment inside the shell will provide force as well. So that's why it will preserve original shape. Inspired by this, architects create a building structure called the thin shell structure. And the thin shell structure can withstand so much pressure because it distributes the pressure evenly across all parts of the shell. And it can make full use of the material strength and at the same time can combine load bearing and enclosure into one. Many famous buildings we know were inspired by this, such as I mentioned Sydney House, Opera House, and the shell structure buildings are both light and costless, and also it allows the interior space to have sufficient capacity. So for me, I also have an idea, but I don't know whether it's feasible or not because I'm not really good at architecture. Well, that we can build emergency shelter with shape like egg in essence. If we use concrete and steel to make shelters in the shape of eggshells, the collapse of building caused by earthquake can be reduced to a large extent. And that's my presentation. Thanks.
Wow, very good. I think that was excellent. Good job, Zhang Yuning. So she observed an eggshell. Very, obviously everyone looks at eggs every other day or every day. It's a very common everyday uh, 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 object. And she noted how architects have used that concept more broadly. And she came up with her own idea as well in terms of perhaps earthquake mitigation and so forth. So that was great. Thank you very much. Let me adjust here. Okay. Kyujuri. Kyujuri. You want to start? I can't hear you.
Yes, Professor, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, so I'm gonna start. My topic is observation of myself. So, well, you may observe many things surround you or happen to you the most time in your life. Like, oh, professor is so gentle. The lady's makeup was so nice, or the sky is so blue today. Because it is that easy to observe what in front of you. But have you ever observed yourself? Actually, you are the most important one for you, but also you ignore yourself most easily in your life. So I observed myself since Wednesday. In that class, we talk about making a framework before you study and talk about some studying methods like linear and logarithmic. After the course in the morning, it really made me think a lot and especially how I learned before and what I do every day. And after observing 2 days, there's a conclusion came out that my study is inefficient. In another word, I'm undisciplined. I thought I might do a lot every day, and every day would be a meaningful and fulfilling day to me. But the fact was, I did nothing after having the class in the morning. So what I found interesting was like sometimes people always complain about they are not talented enough and the successful people must be more brilliant than us. But the fact is Elon Musk studies and works 11 hours a day, but only 3 hours that I do. So actually, this observation makes you know more about yourself and could lead you to your future to be a more creative and more innovative person. So interest and good methods in studying are definitely important, but motivation is also necessary. That's all. Thank you.
Wow, that was great. Very interesting, very innovative. Everybody's thinking about observing something outside, And perhaps the most important thing to observe is what's on the inside. So that was fabulous and very interesting and honest sort of appraisal. Uh, it was interesting that you said, you're not that efficient and you were very honest. And the observation is a kind of, you have to be connected to reality, whether the reality is outside you or inside you, and not lie to yourself, not deceive. That's the scientific method, by the way. And obviously, it's not so easy to be scientific about one's personality, but the method is not so much the key thing, but as you pointed out, the mindset and the honesty and the truth, and that's a very important characteristic. So I was very impressed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Okay, let's go to Ortikov. Ortikov.
Yes, Professor, can you hear me?
Yes.
I will start. A couple of days ago, I saw uh, the tamed pigeons. Pigeons are the birds, of my little brother, and I observed them almost an hour. And there were two pigeons in the cage. I love to watch playing birds. They were very kind and beautiful. It seems that they might have something to tell you. After several days, when I went to watch pigeons again, there were four ones. They doubled in number. I asked my brother, did you buy new pigeons? He replied that no, and I said there were two pigeons, but there are now four pigeons. After that, he explained the rule among the people who look after and feed pigeons in the neighborhood. Uh, they let pigeons fly in every 2 or 3 days. If pigeons bring a new strange pigeon to their home, the owner of strange pigeon cannot take it back. It's like offering freedom.
Mm.
And pigeons choose where to live according to their preferences. And after this conversation and observation, I realized that if we apply this new knowledge in our life, people would be much happier, would choose which country to live, and the difference among the countries would be very low, and our children would live without knowing the what's border or boundary between countries. Because now getting citizenship of developed countries are very difficult, and also some country only allow one citizenship to their people. On top of that, this would make world become economically flat, and there might have a few or none poor countries. The knowledge and imagination above just my thoughts. There might have some drawbacks, but that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Wow, very good. Thank you very much. That was a very interesting observation. And then to extend it and connect it to social issues and human beings. So that was very fascinating. So I had a similar observation actually. As you know, with the COVID crisis, there has been unemployment throughout the world. And many countries have unemployment insurance. I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It obviously is different, and maybe some countries don't have it, but many developed countries have unemployment insurance. And unemployment insurance is while you're employed, you or your employer gives some money as a tax. And then if you lose your job, you're not fired, but you lose your job, then you can get payments every week or every month, unemployment insurance. Now, when I read about there's some new laws in America, they're trying to extend the unemployment insurance because COVID is very bad. And, Biden came, and I was reading an article about unemployment insurance. And it said that the purpose of unemployment insurance, and I didn't realize this, the first purpose is the obvious one, is to give some support to people while they're unemployed and make sure that this business cycle, the economy doesn't completely go bad. And so it can smooth out the business cycle on a general level and help people on an individual level. But the second reason for unemployment uh, insurance, which I didn't realize or I didn't think about, is that it allows people to choose the right job that fits what they do best and can make a better productive society. So this is related to your idea of people being free and the pigeons, right? Because if you don't have unemployment insurance, people have to get the very first job they get, right? Which may not be very good. So it gives a little bit of ability to choose maybe, okay, I'll wait one more week and get a better job that fits with me, and I can be more productive. So the two goals of unemployment insurance is actually the financial support and then the freedom to choose a better job and instead of immediately getting the first job. So that's related to your pigeon idea, at least in my mind. So I'm now, uh, what I'm saying to the whole class is me and Ortikov are doing a kind of brainstorming and exchanging of information. He had an observation of pigeon. He talks about freedom and citizenship and things like that. And then I think about unemployment insurance and some of the other aspects of that. So we can think of new ideas. And so that's the other importance of this assignment is that when you come up with an observation and an implication, that might think of other implications in other people who are in your group or your colleagues. And I'm just giving you an example of that. So thank you very much. Also, very good job.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jean Yayun.
Yes, Professor.
Welcome. We start.
I made an interesting discovery, but it wasn't just this work that interested me. I've been thinking about it for a very long time. I don't know if you know about square dancing in China. In the evening, every park is occupied by aunties. They may be in different groups, but you must really see young women in these groups. This makes me curious and interesting. Of course, even if I wanted to join them, it was a little awkward for me because I had no peers to go with me. Maybe this dance is not fashionable enough or too simple, but I was trying to learn when I was alone and found that it was not as simple as I expected. This is perhaps the most important one. But what I think from this phenomenon is that maybe square dancing is not suitable for everyone, but we really need to do more exercise to be responsible for our health. That's my presentation.
Okay, very good. So I thought that was very interesting because square dancing, again, I'm not an expert, is in the United States. So I was very surprised to see in China. And on the other hand, maybe I'm not so surprised. I'm thinking about it, is that square dancing is a very group activity. And in Asian culture, there's a very group concept. People like to be together. So it's a kind of dance that also combines the kind of group feeling. And so I thought, well, maybe that makes sense. And that it was very good that you mentioned, about the exercise and so forth. And maybe people get bored or they don't have the motivation to do exercise when they're alone, but in groups, it works much better. So that's very interesting. So square dancing in China. Thank you very much. Good job. Let's go to Wang Zhengyi. Wang Zhengyi.
Yes, Professor.
Welcome.
One minute.
Okay, there you are. You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, let's start.
Okay. Yes. There used to be many plants in the community where I lived, but now they have all disappeared.
Oh, okay.
My mother joked that this is desertification, but also in China, some people have turned the desert into an oasis. The Kubfu Desert in China has a total area of 1.45 million hectares, which was once barren. However, the Kubchi Desert we see today is what the picture below shows. So, how did they make such a big change? Firstly, they fixed the discarded wheatgrass in the sand in a grid pattern, then fill each 500 milliliter bottle with water. Insert the saplings into the bottle, seal the bottle, and bury it in the sand. The seedlings take root after fully absorbing water, and the trunk outside the bottle gradually grows and settles in the sand. In this way, these saplings survived. Of course, these are just some of the ways to control the desert. These people have persisted for more than 30 years to achieve the Kubchi oasis, which is now more than 5,000 square kilometers. I hope that more people can learn about these technologies and improve those areas with several desertification. That's all. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you very much, Wang Zhengyi.
Yes.
Let's go to Lin Dai Shun. Lin Dai Shun.
Hello everyone, I'm Lin Daishen. Today I will do a presentation about my observation. In January, it's very cold. I had to use the iPhone for the course because I had something to do in my neighborhood. At that time, I saw iPhone still had 50% battery power, which I thought was enough for the course during the way of backing home. So I started logging to the room while I walked. And I just turned on the video and the microphone and said, Professor, I'm here. At this point, I found the battery was only 20%. Then I took about a dozen more steps and my phone just died. I think it's really strange. I knew the battery wouldn't work for a long time, but not so fast. Then I went home and did some research. The reason for this phenomenon is that the smartphones are equipped with the temperature control chip. When the phone is in extreme temperature conditions, in order to ensure the safety of the phone and the battery, the temperature control chip will adjust the running state of the phone and make it shut down automatically. When the weather is hot, the phone's performance will be limited and the power consumption will be accelerated. At the same time, I found some other interesting things. In the winter, some people charge their iPad with a baby warm sticker, someone in a fire bucket, and someone in the bed. It's all to keep their iPad from getting cold. That's my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Oh, very interesting. So actually, I didn't know that, but I think it's a little bit strange because if it's limiting the performance, that should actually reduce the power consumption. In other words, high performance is more battery consumption.
But in a cold weather, the consumption will be accelerated.
Okay, very good, very interesting. I didn't realize that. So you could do some experiments maybe is in the cold weather, see how fast the battery goes if it's out in the cold. Maybe you can extend the battery life if you put it in your pocket. So that's a very practical implication. I'll have to study if it's the same with an Android phone. It's been very cold in Korea. Thank you very much. Let's go to Luo Jing.
Okay, Professor.
Okay, we start.
Yes, I will share my screen. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Luo Jing. One of the interesting things I noted in my house was that all the potted plants by the window were curved and growing towards the window. So I looked it up online, and it turns out it's called phototropic bending. Phototropism is a kind of tropism, refers to the growth of organism towards the direction of a strong light source and the effect of the property commonly found in plants. Growing towards the light side is called positive phototropism, and the opposite is called negative geotropism. The stems of most plants are phototropic, which helps the leaves photosynthesize. Roots are usually negatively geotropical, but geotropism is more important for the direction of root growth. Positive phototropism and negative geotropism actually mean the same thing. In some plants, the positive phototropism of the stems is caused by an auxin secreted by the tips of the stem. Auxin synthesis is blocked on the light side, so the blocked side contains more of it and carried down. So plants grow toward light. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Good job. Phototropism. So one thing I thought about is this was a very interesting observation. It's also fascinating. And you explain the observation, but what I would like to see is to see another extension to some other idea. So for example, solar power or, other things that have some automatic orientation change to optimize the system. So that was very nice, but I'd like to see kind of a next other connection. Does it make sense? Because that's what the innovation is. I don't want just an explanation of an interesting phenomenon, which is actually very fascinating, but make some connection to something outside that area. But thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you.
Let's go to Yang Yu. Yang Yu.
Hi, Professor.
Morning.
Good morning.
Starting?
Yeah, I want to share my screen. Hi, Professor. Hi, everyone. Today I want to do presentation about the robot cleaner. There is a robot cleaner at my house. Although it helps in cleaning in some ways, it looks very interesting in some place. We can see this video. I found the robot cleaner doesn't clean the dust on the or beside the nightstand. By searching for information, I found the robot cleaner has 3 navigation systems, include inertial navigation, visual navigation, and laser navigation. One of my house is a visual navigation, which allows it to analyze complex optic imaging information through the camera. The robot can look on the map built by itself so as to know which places has been swept and which places need cleaning. But the fatal shortcoming is that I show on the video, it cannot clean accurately demanded places, such as under the bed or beside the nightstand. Such robot cleaners that rely on the vision technological for position will fall, so they will automatically turn around. My new idea is if we can add 3 type navigation systems on the basis can overcome this shortcoming. Thank you.
Good job. 3 modes of navigation. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Wang Yihong. Wang Yihong.
Yes, Professor.
There you are.
Yeah.
Let's start.
I will share my screen.
Okay.
I will share interesting things is about restaurants near my home. There are about 20 robots in a restaurant near my home in charge of delivering food. Some robots are responsible for making noodles and some dumplings, and some robots are acting as a guard and actor. If diner enters a restaurant, green tea will stretch out a robotic arm and say, "Hello, welcome to robot restaurant." Artificial intelligence is used to simulate the tone and make emotion response, similar to humans to correct a virtual reality with emotion attracted. For the voice in action field of your service robots, the future society will develop in intelligence and human direction. In the field of smart cutting, robots will have changed the service modes of some restaurants and allowing consumers to feel convenience brought by technology. Innovation can change people's living habits and improve people's quality of life. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, good job. I think I would have wanted a little bit more extension to other ideas, but that was very nice summary. Let's go to Chen Xiaotong.
Yes, Professor.
Xiaotong.
Since the virus, many things around me have changed. The contactless takeaway, delivery, shopping, and so on. The development of the virus technologies facilitate our lives. Today, I want to talk about novelty honeycomb. In China, various types of contactless distribution have been well developed and spread all over the country. Honeycomb is one of the representatives. Honeycombs are established in different areas of the cities, and express delivery is stored in cabinets. Consignors use pickup codes to pick up the items and to avoid direct contact between the people. The extension of the pickup time interval also makes people's life more convenient. Through this observation, I find that some things already existed change the way of the existence, which can make our lives better. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Okay, so honeycomb. Good job. Let's go to Cao Yingyu. Cao Yingyu.
Yes, Professor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Professor.
Okay, we start.
Yes.
Another iPhone in winter.
Yes. Okay. Good morning, guys. I will give a short presentation. It's winter recently. My friend and I found our iPhone or iPad in use the power very slowly, use the power very quickly and recharge very slowly. Even when I use the iPhone outdoor, my iPhone will shut down because the low temperature. I need to go to the warm place to make it returned on. At the beginning, I naive thought that maybe Apple company who want us warm the machine like we care about the life. Then I then I checked the information and I found it was because the low temperatures will make the internal kind of mobile phone small and the recitals become large. Finally, the internal chemical reaction of battery will reduced. That was why the iPhones not work well in winter. In addition, the shorter battery last of iPhones is actually a strategy by Apple company. If everyone's iPhones can use long times, the new iPhone, it will no one buy the new iPhone updated by Apple companies. That's maybe one of the reasons why Apple company doing better now. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's very kind of bad marketing to make it so that you're forced to get new phone. But sometimes that's the reality. So when I thought about what you said, and also about Lin Dai Shun mentioned about the iPhone, no, not yeah, Lin Dai Shun is of course electric cars. Now, does that mean that electric cars are not going to be such a good idea in cold climates? And only in warm areas like Singapore, electric car is great, but in Vladivostok or Alaska or Shandong, maybe not such a good idea. So that's nobody's ever talked about that. So I think this observation could be very interesting. Does it also have implications for electric cars, which are very big? iPhone you can always put in your pocket, right, and warm it up if that's a problem. But you can't do the same driving outside with an electric car, and it has batteries, of course. So I don't know what the answer is. This is a very strange observation by two people. And what are the implications for electric car? If I'm want to buy an electric car, maybe it's not so good in cold climates. I've never heard about this. So I think this is very interesting. It could have a lot of implications.
Professor?
Yeah.
May I make a comment here?
Yeah.
Comment. So thank you. Well, actually, I had also the same problem with my iPhone, and I found out the reason. It's nothing wrong with processor. It's because of the battery itself.
Yeah, the battery. And that's why I said the electric car also has similar sorts of batteries.
And it's a chemical item, so it has an operation temperature. So below zero, they don't work. They cannot operate properly inside the battery. So it doesn't really support the processor with power. The same with cars, but nowadays, like a Tesla or other electric cars, they use different sort of battery. So they have a little lower temperature, which can support, but not really sure about like really cold weathers.
Well, the other aspect is, there might be some heating system with the battery, so that some of the energy goes to heating. So even though you're using some energy not to drive the car forward, but you're also using that energy to keep the battery functioning properly. So these are all sorts of interesting innovation questions that come out of a simple observation that Cao Yingyu and Lin Daixin, came up with. So I want to see this kind of thinking where we connect to something totally, different. And maybe it is different, or maybe we can actually do some improvements or some new ideas. Very good. Let's go to Hei Jin Yu. Hei Jin Yu. Thank you.
Okay, today I will have a presentation on why do cats have much stronger life force. Nowadays, more and more people like to feed on cats because it's very cute. And I usually observe that cats can jumping up and down easily without hurting. I'm really curious about it. I look some information and do some research about it. Because thanks to it has lightweight, even they feel from the high place, it can reduce the harm. And secondly, you can look at this picture. It has a 6 feet pad, and even they feel from the high place, they will try to light their feet to first touch on the ground. It can release the impact force and protects them in a larger distance. And if you feed some cats, you will hear something like snore. According some research, it shows that cats will make some sounds like snore when it hurts. It indicates that cats are carrying their organ and bones damage, and snore can speak up, can speed up carrying their muscle and soft tissue, and so they have a stronger self-care capability, and therefore they have much stronger life force. That's all my observation. Thank you.
Wow, very good. So that's very interesting that you mentioned about the sound, the snore, and the self-curing, and some sort of a vibration, perhaps. Maybe we can think of some medical treatments, physical therapy, that use this sort of principle. I have not really heard of it. And I think it's something that could be explored, and it could be a very significant advance in medicine based on what we observed with the cats.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thinking innovatively to go to the next step and or another step beyond what you also presented very nicely. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Let's go to Shamuradov. Shamuradov.
Yes. Good morning, Professor.
Morning. We start.
Yeah. Yes. So, as I was thinking about uh, what what can be my observation and what I can speak, I was going through my room, and I found that interesting fact that um, while going through my room, I was very not impressed by what I can choose, and so I found out that my apartment here in Korea is like 5 or 6 times tinier than my normal rooms in my back home country. So I found out that why apartments in Korea are such small. So in the first glance, it's very obvious that in Korea, like 50 or 70% of the territory is full with hills and mountains. Therefore, Koreans live in small apartments. So this kind of does not really represent poorness. It's like a normal situation. But I think that it can open many new doors to the unknown. Why people would benefit with living in the small apartments? It really helps people to change their mindset in a positive way. So you get off redundant things when you have small capabilities, you start to think in a more efficient way. So you have less space available. So you more think about what do you need most. So I think this mindset can be helpful for many people to be more innovative in these days, to get rid of the redundant things, and to think about more important things to fill their lives with it. Thank you.
Wow, very interesting observation. So actually, I had a similar observation when I first came to Korea 10 years ago. So I grew up in the United States, where traditionally, but not uniformly, there's been big cars. United States is famous for big cars, but now, especially since the 1970s and 80s, there have been many small cars in the United States. Of course, there are people who drive trucks and things. And then I also spent a lot of time in Europe, France and Germany and Italy. And Europe is very famous for very small cars, um, uh, the Fiats and so forth. And even the smart cars came out of Europe. And so when I first came to Korea, I imagined that, it's a smaller country, very compact. It's not a poor country, but it's not, the highest GDP either. And some of the cities are old, sort of planning with small streets like Itaewon and things like that. So my first guess would be that the cars in Korea would be small. And when I first came here, I saw all the cars were big. I mean, there are some small Matizes and all that, but in general, I'm talking about sort of the average. So big sedans. And I was very surprised. I said, why do they have all these big cars? It just doesn't make sense. More gas. And also the other reason is Korea is not, like Saudi Arabia. They don't make oil, right? They have to import it and all that, and it's expensive gas. So I was totally surprised. And, it's difficult to park. And of course, Korean parking is always very interesting. Um, and difficult to drive around and expensive and all this. And I realized after some time and looking at Korean culture and everything that the large car was about social status,
right,
and not practicality. So I like to drive small car, and I actually think it's safer because some people think big car is safer, but my idea of safety is to avoid the accident, not actually to get into the accident. And if you have a smaller, more maneuverable car, you can avoid accidents. But anyway, so it's interesting that you said the small home leads to more efficient mindset. But when it comes to cars, they're not interested in efficiency. They're just interested in showing off, just to be very direct. So anyway, I'm not saying I'm criticizing or saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying these are very interesting observations, and there are more, aspects and dimensions to how things are in the real world than just what's obvious. And I still haven't figured out about Koreans and big cars, but obviously, how you look to others is a very important criteria. So if I want to think about innovation in Korea, I want to think about a new product, these are sorts of dimensions to be aware of. So very interesting observation. We need to keep going. Let's go to, thank you very much, Li Xiaojuan. Li Xiaojuan.
Here is what I'm going to talk about today. When I walk on the road, I see some orange small windmills on the telegraph poles. At first, I thought it might be used by the power department to measure the wind speed, but I found out that it's a kind of bird repellent machine.
Oh, wow.
Now the ecological environment has improved, and when birds looking for a safe place to make their home, telegraph poles become one of their targets. But,
Electrical poles, not telegraph.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, just want to make sure.
But birds build their nests of mixed materials. And moreover, excrement is easy to cause short circuit of the problem, and which seriously affects the safe operation of the power grid. The problem caused by birds nesting on the poles are of a great concern. After taking a series of measures, people invented this windmill bird repellent machine to automatically drive away the birds on the wire. The principle of the windmill is to use the natural wind to make it turn quickly, and is also affixed with reflective films or glasses. As long as there is wind, the windmills reflect the sun's rays and scare away the birds. This method keeps the power lines safer than before and keeps the birds from getting hurt. And the most importantly, is very cheap and easy to install. Thanks for listening.
Okay, very good. Now, as I mentioned, that's a very good observation and you learned something new, but I would like to see some sort of extra next step. Could this concept be used in another area? For example, birds are very dangerous for airplanes. Now, obviously, it would not be the same solution, but could there be other solutions that minimize birds aggregating near airports or whatever? So I'd like to see the observation, and obviously you found out that the initial reason was not correct, so you investigated further. But what could it mean for something else that is not, directly or obviously related? I want you to make connections to something different. So, but that was good. Very nicely done, a very nice observation. Let's go to Kong Yewon. Yewon Kong. Yewon Kong. There we are.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my observation. I was looking around my home, around me. Actually, what I found interesting was my family members. Well, because right now we are in COVID-19 pandemic right now, all of us stuck together, right? So this may be spending a lot of time, but we didn't spend that much like last day before we are stuck. So I thought I know about them and I know about family members and I judge them and I criticize them and I help them up. But well, actually I realized that we didn't know that much things about us because we didn't have time to have conversation each other because we didn't actually have talk a lot. We didn't talk a lot. So what I realized was that each one of us have different personalities and way of speaking and figuring out solving the problems. So I thought maybe when I go out to this big society, I should not really judge them by like speaking 5-10 minutes and by just looking at them. And I think I should spend more time talking with them and then slowly know them. I can say that I know them. And this is that was my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a interesting observation, obviously about social relations at home during this difficult time. And let me make a connection. So you, in this pandemic, are observing your family and you've come up with something new. During this COVID crisis, and as I also mentioned in the lecture earlier with Florence and the Renaissance, I predict that after this COVID, well, during and after this COVID pandemic, which has been terrible, many people dying, the unemployment, and all sorts of other impacts, I do predict there'll be a lot more innovation. We will see some really innovative solutions coming out. And this is going to be a direct consequence of this kind of reflection on a mass scale. So that's my prediction. I'm not saying that's the good outcome or whatever. I mean, that's just the reality of things. But we often see during these crises, particularly something like this, where for the 5 or 10 years afterwards, you'll see tremendous changes and innovations. And so that's a prediction that I have, and that kind of reflects what you mentioned. We're going to go to Yun Peng, Zhang Yun Peng.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. Today I'm going to talk about refitted vehicle culture and life. You know, sometimes we do not have choice. I mean, in some special period. I'd like to tell you a story first. In the last year, in March, I went to Korea because I was an exchange student in Solbridge, and I'm going to be a transfer student. So I was going to prepare so many files and do so many stuffs. So I went to Korea and do it by myself, and then because of the COVID-19, I study alone and I live alone. I felt so bad, and it's terrible. One day when I was walking along on the street after finishing tons of assignments, suddenly I saw a cute truck on the street. It curious me. It encouraged me a lot. When I was in Korea, you know, I live alone, so I always went to the street and take my camera by my side, take so many photos. And this is the photo taken nearby Wusong University. And but now I'm back China. I didn't see any like cute trucks. I saw a lot of fancy cars. I saw a lot of cool cars, but there's no cute trucks. I don't know why there is no refitted vehicle culture in China. Maybe because of my country is still developing. Nobody cares about the romantic, or maybe Chinese people are not romantic at all. I don't know. Okay, but I still believe when our economy is going better, we are going to have our own refitted vehicle culture. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. That fits a little bit with what I mentioned about with the pandemic, we'll start to see new things and so forth. Okay, very good. Let's go to Debo Shim Debo. Shim Debo.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay, we're going to start.
As I observed my life, it was very difficult to find out any unusual events since my life was going on in a circle. So I decided to check upon my behavior in my everyday life. And one thing that got to me was how much it is difficult to make choices in the modern world. When I was trying to choose a menu for dinner with my friend, it took us a long time to make decision. We both were not active decision makers, and we could not come to an end since we both were saying whatever menu is fine, and I don't care about what we eat. As choosing the right dinner menu, I thought this was because there are such numerous and diverse choices out there. It is becoming hard to make decisions. Just too many options are available for us, and that it ultimately prevents us from choosing. For instance, when we try to buy a product in the web or through app, on the first page, there are recommendations that are made numerously with other people's ratings or review. It is definite that such recommendation has influence on the purchase behavior. Sometimes I'll just buy things because it has good recommendations and I see other people satisfied by it. Nevertheless, I thought such recommendations make decision-making process much more difficult since attention is given to them. In the end, I'll spend ages looking at all the different offerings and the ratings of them without being able to choose what to buy. I thought this was related to job choice difficulties in that since there are such numerous and diverse paths, maybe this is leading to difficulties in the young generation on choosing jobs. So even if we choose a path, in that path, there are still so many branches. So I thought maybe the difficulty in job choosing is not just about interest, but also about the inability to choose from a wide pool and because of all the recommendation from society. Finally, in the end, a very weird thought occurred to me in which what if the worst products or what the worst recommendations are shown to us on the first page? Would that make decision making more difficult, or maybe it would fasten the process? That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was thinking about what you said, and there's a saying in German language, wer hat die Wahl, hat die Qual. The translation is, who has choice has pain. In other words, with so many choices, there's pain. And this is a very classic German saying. And you mentioned something interesting about, job choice, etc. And I was thinking about this German example. And one of the things that, this is obviously controversial and historical and speculation, but with the rise of Nazism and Hitler, he created a situation where people didn't have to choose. It made it simpler for them, so they didn't have pain in a way, in other words. And so free societies also have a challenge because it makes it difficult with the freedom and all the choices, and sometimes people prefer not to have choices. And this tension is very interesting. So we look at authoritarianism and we look at going backwards from democracy and so forth. And part of it is having lots of choices is not necessarily easy, and freedom involves choices, like you pointed out. So there are political implications, and there are, obviously economic implications. So this is a very deep topic. I appreciate you sharing that. We have lots of choices in the modern world, and how we progress with those can have tremendous implications. We're going to do a few more and then take a break. Let's go to Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu. I can't hear you very well. The volume.
Can you guys see the screen? Can you hear me, Professor?
A little bit, but not too much. Well.
Can we start now?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay. My father is a big fan of koi fish. In China, koi fish means good luck. If a person always be lucky, people will call him or her 锦鲤, which is koi fish in Chinese. Koi are not afraid of people. In fact, koi fish like to swim to the surface of water and interact with people. Uh, those those are two photos I took at different time. The left one was took last summer. We could see all the koi fish are swimming to the surface and asking for food. I could even touch them. The red one was took a few days ago. I was walking in the garden. It was just smooth. The weather was cold. We can see all the koi fish are stay at the bottom and didn't move because the bottom is warmer than the surface, and crawfish are ectotherms. They can't regulate its temperature, and their metabolism is slower in the winter, so they didn't move or like to eat. So when the spring comes, the koi fish can regain its vitality. Koi fish is ectotherms, which is different with endotherms. Koi fish are too dependent on the environment. It may think about people live in society of many changes. We should be the endotherm in the society uh, to adapt the life and work instead of being endotherm, wait for their chance or don't change themselves. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Zhang Yu Hao. Zhang Yu Hao.
Yes, Professor. Good morning, Professor. Good morning, everyone.
Start.
Today I'm going to share a very interesting things about little children. My neighbor's kid is 1 year old and just learned to how to walk and sing something. He can't stop for a moment. He runs around all days and bring me a lot of fun every day. Look at his runs and he see some words. So I wonder how he could master a language in such short time as a year. I began to observe his daily life. Firstly, maybe he just like a white paper. White paper he can get more from his life. And then secondly, he is keen on imaginating the experience expect actions and behaviors of adults. You mean his father is a mechanic. Um, his father is a mechanic. Uh, he always followed his father to see what he was doing, and then he followed his father's step, tapping on his toy car and running around with toys. There is so interesting. I think he is probably learning. The learning is begin with imagination. So as a result, we should set an example by our own words and deeds in order to better help our children grow up. That's all.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you very
for
much.
listening.
Learning begins with imagination. That's true. Let's go to Wu Yu. Wu
Hello,
Yu.
Professor. Yes, Professor.
Hello.
Well, hello everyone. In fact, I rarely look around, until yesterday afternoon. The sunset on my bookshelf and the shadow on the ground like the city skyline. So it was so beautiful. And on the way home at night, the street lamp connects the shadow of my sister and me. together, so which makes me feel the shadow is so warm and interesting. Shadow on the ground are caused by objects blocking the propagation of light, and when the light can't pass through the book, then it will form a dark area. So, which is actually an interesting optical phenomenon. So, it also reminds me the game when I was a child. You just need a flashlight, wet wire, and your hands. Maybe whether it's a tiger, a bird, or a fish, you can show it in shadow. So I understand there's actually people using light and something to create shadow art. And many famous sculptures and Chinese shadow players, whether in reality or in fantasy, can magically appear in front of people. I know they measure the time and then identify the direction by shadow. And the shadowless lamp in operation is also invented by scientists according to the principle. So I realized that something in life both can be both art and application. So like shadow is not only a form of artistic exploration, but also can help humans being like medicine. So if people can are good at finding or applying in life, so I think it will be useful and interesting. Thank you. That's all.
Very good job. Thank you. And making that connection between practical and art. That was great. Let's go to Wang Luo. Wang Luo. We'll have 3 more before the break.
Yes, Professor. I will share my screen.
Wang Luo.
Yes, Professor, can you hear me?
Okay, we're starting, yes.
Yes, the interesting and the starting I observed was the energy saving lamps in my home. I found that when I turned on the energy saving lamps, it didn't become very brightly immediately. Instead, the light become brightened. It takes 1 or 2 minutes. I want to know why this happened. So first, I simply studied the principle of the energy saving lamps. The principle is the filament starts to emit electrons, and the electrons collide with the argon atoms filled in the tube. And the argon atoms gain energy after colliding and hit the mercury atoms. Then a plasma state is formed in the tube. The voltage across the tube is directly turned on through the plasma state and emitting ultraviolet rays. Then the ultraviolet rays exit the phosphor to emit light. These mercury atoms come from vaporized mercury in the tube. So therefore, when the temperature is low, the atom of mercury atom in the lab tube is small, so the light doesn't brighten. As the time turns on for a while, the temperature of the time tube increase. The amount of mercury atoms increase, so the time slowly become bright. And now in my hometown, it is winter, so the temperature is low, so this phenomenon happened. So I think energy saving lamps need a preheating process. In the past, I simply think it is the quality of energy saving lamps, but it's not. It is a characteristic of energy saving lamp, and it is a normal phenomenon. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Wang Li Yao. Wang Li Yao.
Yes.
I just want to
I
make
will show my.
1 second. With Wang Luo, it'd be good to have some again, next other implications, maybe for other applications, but otherwise very nice about energy saving lamps. Let's go to Wang Li Yao.
Okay, I will share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Yesterday I found that there was no milk at home, so I went into the supermarket next to my home, as usual to buy some milk. But when I came out of the supermarket, I found that I had bought like a big bag of things such as milk, bread, strawberry jam, and so on. So I'm very confused that I just want to buy milk at first, but why I bought so many things in the end.
Yes.
Then I searched some information on the internet. I found some rules about how to display commodities in the supermarket. Many supermarkets like to group related items together to stimulate consumer spending. For example, you can see the first picture. Milk powder is often placed next to the bottle, and bread and jam are often placed next to the milk. So in addition, many supermarkets place promotional goods in places with large crowds. And when we are shopping, we often choose items which are close to us. This allows supermarkets to use this habit to choose their displays. This is the concept of commodity group. When you go to supermarkets, maybe you don't want to, you don't decide what you want to buy. Maybe you just want to have a look. At this point, the supermarket's guide will play a key role. It allows you to pay without notice. Nowadays, online shopping is also very popular. We are often attracted by different kinds of interesting advertising. So learn to choose to buy things we actually need is very important. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. So a very interesting thing about this observation is basically you observe some key principles in marketing. And I don't know if you've
Yes.
taken a marketing class, but sometimes by being observant and thinking about things, you actually, and imagining things. Remember, who was it? Zhang Yu Hao talked about learning begins with imagination. You imagine, what are the reasons for this? You actually discover marketing for yourself. In other words, you're almost like teaching yourself some basic principles of marketing. And of course, when you take the course, you'll learn a little bit more rigorously. But learning and innovation are very interconnected. So I didn't see a lot of innovation idea in what you shared, which is, as I said, important. But I saw a lot of learning, and that can be a first step to applying to new areas. So thank you very much. Let's go to last one before the break. Jiang Zhu Jiang Zhu Yi. Okay, now we start.
Yeah, I can see the screen. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jiangxi. Because we need to take online lessons at home every day, so I don't have much time to go out for work. But I find it interesting that since I started in my class at home, the sound of decoration and road construction outside has never stopped. For example, this picture is the trace left by the water pipe maintenance in the community. And this picture is a picture of elevator installation in the community funded by government welfare. But one day I find that our downstairs was being decorated. I think it's very strange because the time of decoration must be on weekdays. So I wouldn't know for sure. Later I heard my mom say that because the owners downstairs were afraid of affecting our daily life. So they specially installed the sun insulation boards before the construction. Though in the highway is a very metro sun insulation technology, I think this is really a new way of decoration that should be popularized. That's all. Thank you for my.
Okay, good job. Thank you very much. So let's take a break here. And we will return at 10:30.